episode 100 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary, with Kristen
and Catherine, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for a virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hey, Kristen!
Hi, Catherine!
So, it's our 100th episode, which is insane.
It is insane.
A lot of episodes, plus our little side ones, but these are like the main chunks.
Yeah. I like that it's coming on the end of a book. Like, I like that it's an even number right to the end of a book. I don't know how we did it, but we did. Yay!
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense because some books were 5 and some were 4, but it like the perfect math equation. Like, I'm sure if you did like 4x plus 5y equals 100, I don't know if there's only like one of each x and y it could be. I'm gonna have to try that later, but yeah. It's
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you find out if there's more than one way to do that?
Well, just like
try different
you could
numbers?
just try different numbers, yeah. Because like obviously we know the numbers that, or we could look up the numbers that got us to this place.
Yes, yeah.
Like we can check which months and blah blah blah. But then like you could just trial and error. But you know it's obviously there's a cap of how high each number can be really. But like obviously it is so.
We're really getting into it now. The math comes out.
Well, realistically, you know that each one could be 0. So, like, there is a number times 4 that equals 100, and there's a number times 5 that equals 100. So,
right.
There's definitely more than 3 ways, but it would take some trial and error to find the other ones. You could probably set up a program. Maybe I'll get Jeff to do that. Anyway, that's not what we came here for. We just got bogged down in it. So yeah, 100 episodes. That is 100 times that we've said hey.
Yeah, it is. I'm very happy that we've got here. And it's a little bit of a wow moment that we've gotten to 100 episodes.
I agree. And, like, I know we're coming up on 2 years pretty soon, too, which I guess makes sense based on time. But I'm happy that we, like, kept doing it. Because it is, like, there's a lot to it, obviously. Like, once a week for 2 years is a long time to stick to something. Yeah. I'm proud of us.
Yeah. I'm also proud of us. And I think we've learned a whole lot. I know I've learned a whole lot about editing and, like, using editing software, upgrading our equipment a little bit. We're still, like, still not perfect. We're not doing this in, like, a soundless room with professional mics and, like, soundproofing. Like, I'm still doing this in my living room.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, children come running through. And husbands come running through while walking through. He doesn't run through. But, no. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to get that sound out. Because it's just, like, behind my voice. But I try. So, yeah, it's been a wild ride. Do you have a favorite moment?
Favorite moment? I don't know about favorite moment, but I do think, like, it's definitely, in the podcast as a whole, has definitely done a bunch of amazing things for my life. I think it's definitely increased my, like, reading, or, like, not increased, but, like, I found different books that I wouldn't have found without it. Like, I don't think I'd be reading this book that we're reading this month. I don't know if I would have got Kindle Unlimited. Like, I think I probably would have stuck more to the same types of things. Like, I don't know if I would have gone and found, it's all under the same genre, but I don't know if I would have found different authors without it. And I think it also has, like, made our relationship much stronger, because obviously, like, life and everything with that, it's hard to keep in touch with people sometimes, but if you got to talk to somebody once a week for this, you're gonna have a stronger relationship anyway. And then like, I feel like we see each other more now than we did before, even outside of the podcast. Yeah. So I definitely enjoy that too.
Samesies. Yeah, it's I agree with you. It's nice to have like something that's not work related that still gives you like a purpose and a goal that's related to an interest. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like
it's one thing to like have a hobby, but also to like be able to work towards a goal. I don't know. It helps to like give you something to do, so that you're not just sitting on the couch like mindlessly like watching TV or like scrolling through your phone.
Yeah, definitely. And like some of the people that like we've talked to, and like we got an ARC book that we talked about this month. Like that stuff is really cool too, and something that we obviously never really would have had a part of if we didn't have this podcast. Like, I know you can apply to be ARC readers, but I've never done that either.
I honestly did not know anything about ARC books until except I think I found out about them like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Had no idea they were a thing.
Yeah. So like, I feel like it's broadening our, I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
We're meeting people and getting recommendations for books, and like, I love that too.
Yeah, and I think too that we live in a very small place.
Yes.
So because we live somewhere small, it's very easy to feel like sort of that you're not a part. I don't know, like it's hard to explain. Like you're not a part of the rest of your country, you're not a part of the rest of the world because we are such a small place. And it seems like not very much happens here. And it also seems like it feels like there's no way that like people would listen to us. Like it's very rare that like people from here end up becoming like famous or like you know, it's hard to break into that. Not saying that we're not famous. I know we're not, but like it's nice to see like people from different parts of the world tuning in.
Yeah. And like we have people literally from all over the world, and like you go in and I'm like, this is insane. Like,
yeah,
it's so cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Agreed.
Anyway, we just want to say thank you to our listeners for the 100 episodes. We know that there are some people that have stuck around since the beginning. So we just want to thank each and every one of you. It's been a blast so far.
Yeah. And we can't wait for our next 100. See what comes with those.
So we're going to get into our last episode of The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Just a heads up, this is not a spoiler-free zone, and things are definitely getting saucy this week.
Woo!
And it's all you.
It is. Yeah. So this week we're doing chapters 41 to the end. Last week we ended in the middle of the Crescent Moon trial, which is the 4th of 5 trials. Going up to the Crescent Moon trial, all the vampires were starved. So Oreya and Raihn had split up because she was kind of afraid that he would get bloodlusty about her, and she didn't want to deal with that. So when they get to the trial, Oreya realizes that the animals are poisoned, so she goes to find Raihn to stop him from feeding on them, and then going mad and dying. And she has to offer, I guess. There really
Strong
wasn't.
Word. Chooses.
Yeah.
Chooses.
To offer him her blood, and then she ends up coming because there's so much sexual tension and there's grinding and it's pretty hot. But we don't get any sex, which we're sad about. Although I guess it's really not the time for it in the middle of a trial. But
Do you know what, though? Do you know what it sort of reminds me of? So, like, we've been saying a little bit that this is sort of Hunger Games-ish.
Oh.
And remember in the Hunger Games, everything is filmed.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if it was the case with this one?
Well, when I was reading it, I was wondering if somehow, like, they could see what they were doing. Because, like, in all the other trials, they were in the Coliseum, so everyone could see. Yeah, so I was wondering if there was some way, like, not filming, but, like, some magical way. I kind of assumed that there would be, but it doesn't seem like there is.
Well, let's hope not.
What I thought you were going to say is, from Blood and Ash, it reminds you of when they just had sex in the carriage in the middle of a battle.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's what, anyway. Yeah, so it's like a lot of things. But then I guess they sleep for a bit, and then they set out across the land 90 seconds at a time, hiding under a cloak while dangerous smoke goes past them. And last week we ended where they realized that this, like, completely barren place is actually Selene, and Vincent had it all destroyed. So that is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's the place that she was found. It's where she had hoped to go back to once she had been turned so that she could find any family.
Yeah, and, like, I think last week the character that we met, whose name I don't remember, but she comes back this week, but her wife was in Selene as well. So, like, we don't know if she's alive.
Keturah.
Yeah, Keturah. So we don't know if her wife made it or not. So that's also sad. Anyway, so we're back to this week. Oreya is in shock, and she has stopped counting. So the smoke comes for them, and Raihn forces her under the cloak, but they were not prepared, so they're not really covered well, and her foot's kind of sticking out, and it's just a bad time. Mm-hmm. She can't really help but think of Vincent, and she is adamant that, like, he wouldn't do this. Because obviously she knows him as her father. She doesn't think he'd do this to her specifically because he knew she was going back. Like, that is her main thing. Like, she knows he would probably do this in general, but, like, she had family here. She's like, why wouldn't he spare this place for me? And really, like, it's, you'd think he would have. But she also thinks, like, Nyaxia put it here on purpose. Because we said last week, this trial is reminiscent of when she went to try to find her husband. The White Pantheon took him, and she had to go across barren lands and got there too late. So this is...
It is, yeah.
Like, it's there symbolically, but it also makes me feel like Nyaxia is, like, literally targeting Oreya with, like, all of this, and kind of Raihn too. Like, I feel like she knows something, and she's doing this to be, like, to orchestrate the ending that happens. Like, I feel like that's what's happening, but that might be a bit too giving her too much credit, but who knows. Anyway, so Raihn is also obviously in shock, and he says 500,000 people lived here. And Vincent's voice in Oreya's head tells her they need to move, and she looks up and she sees someone running towards them. So she pushes Raihn out of the way, and Ivan slams into her, and her blades go flying because she wasn't really prepared for it. She was just trying to save Raihn. And he cuts into her abdomen, and then he's able to use his blood magic, which is another one of those, like, we don't really... I need more information on the blood magic, because I'm pretty sure the first time we saw it used, she didn't have a cut. But I'm just...
Yeah, but remember when I said that it felt like they have to have exposed blood? Because that continues, like, there are other instances where, like, someone will purposely, like, put their claws, like, into someone and break the skin so that then they can use the blood magic.
Yeah.
And so it's odd that the very first one, it was like, nope, not needed.
Yeah, I don't really understand, but maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it could have also just enough.
Yeah, it could have been an error on our part. It could have been an error in the book. It could have, maybe the person was more powerful. Maybe there's a reason behind it and we just don't know it. Anyway, we're getting too in the weeds. But
yeah,
it's fine. It seems like they need to cut them going forward. And also, like, I guess it could be maybe that person had developed a different thing because they used her blood to stop her from moving. And, like, in this time, he uses blood magic and, like, takes her blood out of her body. He does stop her moving too, but like her blood is like in the air in front of her from her cut, so like it's a bit different, I guess. Anyway, not the point.
He's going hard at it.
Yeah, and it is not good. And so as he's like attacking her, he says it's for the half moon because obviously I think like she killed everybody when she used her night fire. And she went after him. And he's the one that almost killed her then, I'm pretty sure. Because she was paired up with, he was paired up with Angelica. Anyway, so she is not good, which is how she ends a lot of her trials. And she's expecting to die, but Raihn hauls Ivan off of her. And Raihn is about to kill Ivan when Angelica shows up, and she has a bow. And she actually trains her bow on Oreya, and she yells to Raihn that if he doesn't let Ivan go, she's going to kill Oreya. And she says, well, she asks him if he wants another Nesrin. I think I spelled that wrong.
I think it's Nesinrin. Because it's N-Y-N at the end.
Yeah.
Nisanyan or something?
Nessernin? Maybe I'll figure it out later. Anyway, not the point. Oreya then hears Vincent's voice in her head saying she's made it so far, and she thinks like her bones will lie in her homeland. And she thinks like her family's bones are probably there too. So like she's kind of accepting of this because she thinks she's gonna die. Raihn says he'll let Ivan go, and then he pulls off Ivan's mask because Ivan had his face covered because of the fog, and then he pushes him down into the ravine, I guess. Like they're up on a hill kind of, so he pushes him into the smoke, which is not great. And Angelica wails in grief, and Raihn just like jumps over Oreya with the cloak, and the smoke is obviously coming towards them, so they have to wait their 90 seconds. But Raihn tells her like they have to go now because if they wait, obviously Angelica will shoot them with a bow when she can see them again. So he picks her up and they fly while there is smoke out, and they get through the arch and they end up in the Colosseum and it's empty. Ibrahim is there already, and his wings are completely ruined. He just used them to protect himself.
Yikes.
Yeah, but he says it's like the most useful they've been in years because his family clipped them, and it's just like so sad. I actually love him as a character. Big fan. The minister's there, who is like the creepy priest guy, and 4 acolytes, and they're telling them that they progressed to the final trial and that there's been a change, and the new moon trial is actually going to be tomorrow instead of in 3 weeks like it normally is. But he says it's important that the Kajari concludes because it's unsure if Savernage will exist in 3 weeks. So that's something. But so
it's funny, not funny, but like, so they've literally been super insulated the past, like, we'll say almost a month. They haven't been allowed to leave. They've been completely focused on the Kajari and haven't known anything of what's going on outside. Yeah. So for them, they're all like, what's happening? And like, everything is like, the world is still turning. Everything is still happening while they're
because there's, let's say, a literal
rebellion
happening. Yeah. So he basically just points outside, and Oreya looks through the doors of the Colosseum, and she sees hundreds of Rishan bodies, and they're like lining the tops of the walls, and their wings are like spread out, I guess, beside them. Like they're pinned to the walls. And she says some of them are still twitching because they're like still dying. And they go on further than she can further than she can see. So it's really devastating and awful.
Well, he just like murdered like an entire race of people.
Yeah, I guess anybody that he could find, he's pinning them up here. So
yeah,
I'm surprised they're just letting Raihn continue and not just kill him.
But I don't think they can. Like, I think he's a contestant, so I think they have to let him.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the things, and maybe that's why they waited for the Kajari to happen, because there would be Rishon in the city.
Yeah, that's true. Could be. So yeah, the minister basically tells them to rest, and you're like, she's dying. Like, they're not going to be fine by tomorrow, but okay. We get an interlude then, and Vincent tells the girl that he has a gift for her. And, like, this is when she had a flashback when Raihn said that he had a gift for her, first or probably second week.
Oh, yeah, like, it was the dude's head.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, like, the PTSD flashback that she got at that moment, but we're getting it now. So he brings her to a room, and the boy is in there, and he's kneeling, and his hands are tied behind his back. He apologizes to her and tries to, like, tell her that he's sorry and all this stuff. But Vincent just tells her to look at how terrified he is. Vincent gives her a blade and tells her the heart is the easiest way. And the boy starts to beg, obviously. The narrator or whatever, like, it's kind of third person, says that later in life, the girl will realize he didn't mean to hurt her. But in the past, she just, like, kind of says, like, she can't do this. Vincent tells her that he warned her he was the only one she could trust, and this is the consequences. God. So, like, this is a punishment for her too, really. She kills him, obviously, because Vincent told her to, and he tells her to look him in the eye as she does. So she does that, and she stands there thinking it wasn't losing her virginity that, like, changed her. It was this moment of killing somebody. So
yeah, and she thinks about it all the time. We just didn't fully understand it until now. So, like, she said that, like, his face haunting her is the reason why she ended up going to the human district in the first place to kill vampires. Like, when she was in the third trial, like, she saw his face, and, like, she says she still sees his face sometimes when she goes to sleep. Like, it haunts her that she killed him. And, like, I feel like I'm gonna sound like a bitch, but, like, I don't understand why it's such a huge deal. Like,
I took it differently, though.
Because, like, I was thinking, like, I don't understand why she's as angry at him as she is. Because, like, yes, he bit her without her consent and drank from her during sex. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like she didn't die. Like, she managed to get away from him. He expressed remorse. I just don't understand, like, why she was as angry at him as she was.
I think it was fear. Like, I don't think she's seeing his face as she kills him all the time. I think she's seeing his face as her being vulnerable and unable to protect herself. Like, I think it's kind of a metaphor for being raped, I think.
Right.
So, like, I think that's what's haunting her. Like, I don't think killing him, like, yes, that changed her. But I don't think, and she thought she loved him. And then she thought she was safe with him. And, like, that's a big deal for her to feel safe with somebody. Like, she hasn't felt safe with anybody. And she felt safe with him. And then he would have killed her if she didn't get away. So, like, I think really her trauma is more she does, like, she is the fear and the being afraid and the, like, that kind of stuff. I don't think it's, like, obviously killing him is a big deal, sure. But I don't think that's where the trauma stems. I think it stems from, like, her feeling like she could have died in that moment. And she can't trust people. But, yeah. Yeah, so back to the present. And Angelica finishes 2. So there's going to be 4 of them in the final. So we went from 11 to 4. Raihn and Oreya make it to the apartment, and she basically collapses because of her wound. And she also just can't stop thinking of Selene, obviously. And Raihn uses a potion on her stomach to heal her. And she holds his hand because she, like, knows it hurts him just as much as her that, like, this entire city is destroyed. He tells her he almost sent Misha there. And, like, obviously that would have been awful. And that her father is a monster. She almost agrees with him. Like, her first instinct is, yeah. But then she kind of thinks, and she's like, she grew up with him. Like, this is really like the Stockholm syndrome. Like, she knows him differently.
But it's also, like, it's what we were talking about last week on how, like, it's really hard to reconcile who he is to her versus who he is to everyone else. Yeah. And, like, yeah, he's a monster, but, like, he's still loving and genuine with her. And, like, he still saved her. He still raised her. Did he raise her a bit cruelly? Yes, absolutely. He raised her in, like, sort of a cruel way. But, like, from last week when they were at the feast and he said, like, you are the best thing that's, like, you are my biggest accomplishment. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, we know that he can be caring and genuine, and so it's really hard to reconcile those 2 aspects of his personality.
Yeah, I agree. So obviously, like, she knows both sides, but she see the other one predominantly. So she does think, like, she must be missing something. Like, he wouldn't do this to her. Because, again, like, she's thinking about how she had planned to go there, and he knows that. Like, he wouldn't do this. So she thinks, like, there has to be something. Something must have happened that they don't know about. But Raihn just says, like, there's no reason that is good enough to kill 500,000 people there. Like, and it's not just Risha in there, obviously. There are humans, too. Like, there's no good reason for that. She tells him, like, Vincent knew she was going back for them when she became his Coriate. And that's basically, like, I guess he knew that she was doing this because she wanted to become kind of immortal and, like, have power and stuff. But he didn't realize that she was going to ask to be Vincent's Coriate. So he's super shocked by that. And she just says, like, she isn't strong enough as she is. And he scoffs and says she was going to bind herself to him and go liberate her family to be a hero. And he tells her she's too smart for this. And there are hardly any humans left in Selene anyway, because apparently her father has been taking them along with all of their other resources for the last 20 years. So that's news. I guess even if she...
Yeah, and it's just convenient that it's been the last 20 years since she's been with him. So, like, did he not care about Selene before she came to him?
Yeah, and, like, if he's been taking the humans and he's known since she was 11, like, he knows that they're not there. Even, he told her he couldn't go there, but he's taking their resources and their humans, so obviously, like, I know it's not him taking them, but he knows that, or he can send somebody to check if anybody still lives that she knows.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's manipulating her because he knows that that's her goal. But obviously, like, she's not going to really see that. But she says kind of what I just said, that can't be true because the Rishan districts are protected. And he says, like, the human districts are protected here. And she's kind of like, oh, shit. he's not wrong. Raihn tells her that Vincent sent her into the Kjari with the promise to all so he could use her. And she says he's giving her his power, which is obviously a big deal to her. Like, I think the first week she was like, he's giving her power and she has nothing really to give him. But he counters and says he's taking her power too. And he's making sure that she can never make a move on him. Which is, like, key, but we don't know why. But, like, that is the important part of that.
Yeah, so I think, too, that it's important to know that, like, she has never been powerful. Mm-hmm. So, like, she always said she could handle a couple of sparks, but she didn't realize she had power. And when she told Vincent first about this explosive amount of power that came out of her, he was just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, your body's just finally realizing that it needs it. So, like, he is not surprised. So, like, it makes you go back and wonder, like, has he literally just been manipulating her this whole time into not thinking she has power so that she can become his Koryate, and then he would have her power and know how to use it.
Yeah. I also think, like, the main reason is, like, the big reveal that we get at the end of the book. Her not being able to go after him, if she, like, I feel like he would have told her. If she became his Koryate, he would have told her then the truth between them. Yeah. Because she wouldn't be able to kill him. Because
it's super important that he needs to feel safe, and in order for him to feel safe, she needs to not be able to hurt him.
And, like, obviously, if he were in her spot and he found out, he would kill anybody. So it's he really thinks that she is exactly like him, and she is not. Don't know why I found that so funny. Anyway, she takes her weapons out and says, enough. And she says, like, Vincent loved her and he taught her and he didn't have to. And Raihn responds, he killed them all and she can see his grief. And he tells her she needs to ask herself some hard questions, like why Vincent is afraid of her and what he is getting from this, which is kind of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And this is also what we just talked about, but she can't imagine there's anything that he could get out of it. Like, he is the king of the night-born vampires. I almost just said night court. So, with all this in tow, she leaves and goes straight to the castle. And she goes inside, and it's like, it feels different than it did before. There are more vampires around than she's used to, and it looks less inviting than it used to, and, like, it just smells like blood, and she's just like, this isn't what, like, it used to feel somewhere kind of safe for her, especially her room and stuff. But she basically storms straight into his office, and Jasmine is there, and she tells her, Oreya tells Jasmine to go get Vincent now, and Jasmine is like second, she's like the army commander or something, like she's second in command really, so she's just like what? So she kind of wars with herself and then decides that Oreya does outrank her and she goes to get him. So Vincent shows up alone and he asks what she's doing there. But he's also happy because he knows that obviously she made it through the trial. But she just responds and says, Selene. And she tells him that it was the location of the trial. And he's just like, of course it was. Like, he's thinking like Nyaxia has a twisted sense of humor, basically. But it makes her realize, like, he wasn't going to tell her about it. He was just going to let her finish the trials, become his Koryate, and then try, like, I guess, find out then. And, like, she would have already made the decision to bind herself to him at that point. So, you know, it would have been awful. But he basically counters, like, he's a king. Like, his decisions for his people are, like, not for her to scrutinize. And she asks, what if she was there? Like, she could have been one of the humans that lived there. But same as always when she kind of brings this up, he's like, he responds, she would never have been there. And it's interesting.
It makes us think, like, why he believes that so strongly.
Because, like, she believes it's fate that brought him to her and, like, took her and decided to keep her kind of thing. And, like, that's the story she's lived with forever. So she's like, she even says...
Is there something else?
Yeah. She even says now, like, she is just human. Because she knows he hates when she says that word. And she was born to human parents there. But he tells her she is more than them. And he kind of asks if, like, she sees him as a captor now. Because, like, he took her away from her family and stuff. He brings her down a hallway now and shows her, like, a dining room where all of the, like, I guess, vampire soldiers are. And they're feeding on humans. And some are tied to the table. And some are literally, like, pinned to the table with daggers and stuff. And they're slumped against the wall. And she is kind of shocked because this is not what she's seen. Obviously, she's seen, like, the fancy bowls of blood and, like, this is so much different. But this is, I guess, real life, and he's finally showing her. And
and I think it's been very clear, and I've actually tried to punctuate it while we've been reading this book together. Like, all the instances that she shows up at a ball or a feast after everybody has eaten.
Yeah.
And Vincent sort of trained her to do this because he's like, well, you know, if they're all hungry and you're there, they're going to try and eat you.
Yeah.
But I think it was more, he didn't want her to see this side of him.
Yeah. And I do think...
And see that this is how he runs his corpse.
Yeah. I do think it is smart. Like, obviously, if she showed up while they were doing this, she'd probably die. Like, it is... A lot of it was self-preservation.
Yeah.
But, it's also because he didn't want to show her this, but now he's like, she's old enough, she'll understand.
I think this was an angry decision. I think he did this, like, she said that she was, like, ashamed.
She didn't say it yet, but yeah, like, he can tell, like,
so she's like, pissed and, like, she's angry, and he's pissed and angry that she's, like, attacking him. So I think this was a decision done in anger to be like, look, this is what these people are.
Yeah, this is what, like, human
this is not what you are. Yeah.
It's to show her the distinction between her and humans, really. It's like, he's not even really thinking of how it'll actually affect her. Like, he doesn't even realize it will. Because he thinks he's trained her to be so different that she doesn't even see herself as the same, basically.
Do you know what? I just wish that, like... I wish that he would just tell her who she really is. Because, like, up till now, we've had a couple of hints that, well, maybe she's not exactly human. And, like, how he treats her is differently than how he treats a regular... Like, there has to be a reason why he took her and raised her. Like, and then she's got all this power. Like, there has to be a reason. And I feel like if he admitted to her what that reason is and explained to her who she truly is and what she really is, I feel like that would have been a better, like, it would have cleared a little bit of the rift between the two of them.
Yes. But if he explained it, like, I think his biggest thing is he thinks that they are the same. So he thinks if he tells her the truth, she will attack, like, kill him. Because that's what he would do.
Right.
So I do think it's all embedded in fear, and it's like it's not a metaphor, but like if you look at Ibrahim, it's the same thing with him. Like it's all about their fear.
Yeah.
And like he loves her, but he doesn't love her enough to put away his fear, which is sad for him too. But in this moment, he tells her that they are not people, they're just livestock. And he made her to be better than them. And you're like, ooh, very sketch. Not great. I don't think this is going to endear you to her, but continue.
No.
And like he even like, she can tell that he thinks that this will make her grateful and that she's going to be okay with it, but she is literally just sickened, obviously.
But I also feel like part of the problem too is that because she's been hunting in the human districts, she has like definitely more sympathy to humans than he realizes.
Yes.
And like I think if he knew that she was doing that, he would have gone about this in an entirely different way.
Completely agree.
Because in his mind, she has had no interactions with humans except for Ilana.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if he
doesn't know about Ilana.
Knows about Ilana. So like I think that he's doing this out of lack of knowledge of her affiliation with humans.
Yeah. He thinks that literally she's had zero contact and like he's bred her to be completely kind of indifferent to them and think of herself as different.
Yeah.
Which like,
and she does think of them as different. She sees herself as not really a part of either world. She's not a part of the human world, and she's not a part of the vampire world. She sees herself as set apart.
Yeah. But you'd think that he would have realized when he saw her pick up the little girl and, like, almost get herself killed to save a child. Like, you'd think he would have been like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't go about it this way. But anyway, he doesn't. You know. Powerful men and all. She flat out asks him then why he wants her to become his Koryatai. I say it different every time, I think, but whatever. But she, in her head, says that she knows why it is, and she thinks it's, like, the only way to make her acceptable to love. Because, like, he loves her against his wishes, is how she feels. Like, she is human, and he wants her to become his Koryatai so that he... Like, she is actually his daughter then, and she is not human anymore, and it's acceptable for him to love her. And I don't even think she... Oh, yeah, he does answer, and he says that he wants her to be his daughter in every sense of the word. Which is kind of like foreshadowing, I guess.
Yeah.
But she just says that today she is ashamed of that. And, yeah.
Wrong thing to say.
Yeah. She sees hurt across his face, which is, like, new for her. Like, it's not an emotion that he shows. And then he is angry. He grabs her arm and slams her against the wall. And he asks if she'd prefer to be his enemy. And, like, he's holding her arm so tightly that, like, there's already bruises, and he draws blood with his nails. And she tells him to let her go. And, like, the shake and fear in her voice is what gets him, like, to back off.
Back off.
And he actually looks horrified with himself. And he says, Oreya, I... And you're like, oh, he might say that he's sorry. But she's like, I am not taking an apology right now. And she just leaves.
Yeah. And I think, again, I'm really sorry, but the two books blur for me. Mm-hmm. I think she has said that he has never apologized for anything.
Yeah, that was the first week. When he didn't show up when she was injured after the first trial.
Right. Yeah, so, like, the fact that he was close to saying it is like a, ooh, big deal.
Yeah. But she doesn't want it at this moment because, like...
No.
Obviously.
He hurt her.
But it's also, like...
And she's disgusted with him.
Yeah. She is ashamed of him. And she's ashamed of, like, what he's done. And, like, an apology now would probably, like, take some of her anger away. And she can't have that at the moment.
Yeah.
So she goes to the human district. And there are more vampires than ever. And she is super pissed. She's on her 4th kill, and she's so angry, and she's like thinking about how like the human district here is literally just a breeding ground. They are just livestock to the vampires around, and she hates all of the vampires, and she ends up like stabbing this dead vampire so many times he's just like a bloody pulpy mess. Raihn shows up and tells her to stop, and she fights him because like obviously she's in the mood for a fight, until he pins her to the wall, and he tells her it's almost dawn and he's been looking for her everywhere. He's like holding her arm, and he gets kind of close to where Vincent hurt her, and she flinches, and he asks where it's from, and she takes a little too long to lie, and he is pissed again because he knows that like obviously this was Vincent that hurt her. She does tell him like he's done worse than that, but he's just like, he's very mad about it.
Yeah. And like, it just like, when she says he's done worse, it really makes me wonder like, what worse has he done? Like I wonder, is she talking exclusively about like while training, or is she talking something else?
I think she said that Raihn has done worse to her than what Vincent had. That injury, like,
okay.
But I don't actually remember the exact wording, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, like all in all, it's like it's a small injury, but it's big for her, and
yeah,
Raihn is obviously very angry. It's one of those like, who did this to you moments that I love in all books, but he can't go kill them. Well, just gonna stop there. Yeah. So anyway, he looks at her, and she thinks he's looking at her with pity, but he says he thinks she deserves better. And she asks why he's here and why he cares. And he asks if she's a fool, and then he says, or maybe he is. And they really have like a connection where like they know who the other one is feeling something. And like I have to believe that there's something more to it than like normal human beings, because I can't tell what anyone is feeling at any time. So like I'm imagining that there is more to their feelings than just because they like, maybe it's being alive for 300 years. Raihn can read people better than I can. I'll give it that. But she knows that like she feels the same as he does, and she goes to him and she kisses him, which is amazing. He pins her against the wall and is kissing her, and it isn't enough, and she pushes for more, but he says he doesn't want to fuck her for the first time in an alley. You're like, fair. But she's like,
I guess.
She's like, yeah, I don't care. Just let's do this.
Yeah, let's go for it.
He kisses her gently and asks for one honest thing, and she just thinks like everything with him has been honest, and that's the problem. And she doesn't really know how to tell him that. So she just says that like she'll probably die tomorrow, so he should show her something worth living for. Woo.
Sex.
Yeah. The only thing worth living for. It's not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. That was dumb.
I love it.
So he picks her up and they fly back. And he like is kissing her while they're flying, and they like make it back just before dawn. So they're not like, they almost got disqualified in this moment, which would have just been funny.
Hilarious, actually.
I almost would have liked it better.
They could have run away together,
right?
If disqualification just means you can't come back in.
Yeah, you just get, as opposed to getting smited where you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they end up back in the apartment, and she looks at him and she thinks of how this is like their final night together, and it is apparently unheard of more than one contestant to live through the Kajari. So we're finally getting that like literally only one person normally lives, and I guess
yeah, it is like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I guess Misha is like an outlier because like that doesn't often happen, I assume.
Yeah. And, like, do you know what, though? So this makes me wonder. So, like, we got earlier that Misha signed up for this and forced Raihn to sign up with her. Mm-hmm. So, like...
What was her plan? Was she just gonna die?
Yes! Yes! That's what I'm thinking! Like, she wanted Raihn... She was trying to, like, force him into action, to force him to compete, but, like, was her plan to sacrifice herself so that he could be in this and win? Like, I don't understand her thought process.
I think that's 100% it. I think because, like, realistically, it would have been better for him to not sign up and then pray that she wins, because, like, two of them can't live anyway. So I don't know, but he does. I think a little later on he says, like, he would have got her out somehow. You're like, how? You can't a goddess? How? Anyway, but that was his plan was to somehow get her out, and her plan was, I think she would have just sacrificed herself if she had to. So anyway, Raihn runs his hand down her face and asks what that face is for, because obviously she's thinking that one of them has to die. And she responds, "Kiss me," because obviously she doesn't want to go there again. And he, like, kisses her, but he kind of, like, tugs on her hair, and it reminds her of the night of the feast and how much she wanted him then, and how she doesn't want to let him go. And he's kind of being a bit gentle, but she bites his lip to get him back on track. But their armor is too thick, but she still touches him through it, and he's so big. So large and so hard. And he picks her up by the ass and takes her to his room and, like, puts her on the bed. And she tries to take his jacket off, but it's just too complicated. Which I kind of love. But she admires the red in his hair and wings, and she thinks of how she didn't realize how much of it there was in both. And you're like... Anyway.
Yeah. It's like, come on!
She touches his wings, and this is very, very reminiscent of Akhtar.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I'm sure...
Sensitive wings.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like it's also a thing in other things. It's not just Akhtar. It's just, like, Akhtar is the first one that I've read it in, so it's where my head goes. But anyway, she touches his wing, and he, like, inhales sharply and tells her they'll save that for another time, and then his wings disappear, and she's kind of sad about it. But you're like, there is no other time. One of you's gonna die. You should be doing everything.
Yep.
He asks her to take off her armor, but she is a bit nervous, because, like, I think it's kind of obvious, like, she's only had sex once before, and it didn't go great. So she asks him to take some of his clothes off first. So he takes his jacket off, and she just admires him, and he's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. And then she stands up and takes all of her clothes off. And he tells her beautiful isn't enough. And then he gives up on words and uses his hands and mouth to work his way down her body. And she thinks of, like, how different this is from last time. But she also, like, realizes, like, last time they were basically kids. Like, last time she had sex, they were basically kids. So obviously it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Raihn stops then and asks if this is her first time, because, like, she's never been with humans. Like, she's never lived near humans, or like she didn't have access to human boys to have sex. So, like, and he knows how terrified she is of vampires. Like, she kept distance between them all the time. So, like, it wouldn't be unrealistic for her to have never had sex. But she says it's not her first time, which is the truth, even though to her it kind of feels like a lie in this moment. And he looks at her scar and asks if that's when she got it, and she says yes. And he asks how, and she says that the boy just couldn't control himself. And he tells her she's safe, and he needs her to know that, and she truly believes it and feels safe. And he tells her he wants her to enjoy this, And then he says more than enjoy. And he tells her that she is in control, which is a big deal. And it's like one of the main things we keep seeing from him, because like obviously there is a power dynamic between them because he's a vampire. But he always makes sure that she feels in control of the situation, which I love.
Yeah, me too.
He teases her then, and he touches her and says he's been thinking of this and what she would sound like, and like it's super hot and getting sexy. He pulls her to the Why are you laughing?
I don't know.
I
just
it's okay. It's fine. He pulls her to the end of the bed, and she feels vulnerable with him kneeling between her legs. And like, it is like she still feels that he is a predator, even though she does feel safe. Like, he's still a predator to her species. Like, he's a vampire, she's a human. Like, there's still that dynamic. So she does kind of feel that. But he says he wants to taste her, and he reaches up and she takes his hand, and she knows like he's reassuring her, and she says yes, and he goes down on her. But like there's this constant, like he's always asking and making sure she's okay, and like making sure, like it's a good, I don't really know how to say it, but like it's a good first time of having sex after like being assaulted moment. Like you're like, he's very in tune with how she is, making sure at every step that she's good with this, that everything is fine, that she feels in control, and that I just really appreciate it, because it would, you can easily just erase that her past happened and be like, they're so in love with each other, they're gonna fuck like rabbits, and it's like there was never any trauma, but we're really actually like looking into the trauma that she has, and I appreciate that.
100%.
So yeah, he goes down on her and he says it's better than her blood. You're like, cool. And she thinks the same. That him going down.
I mean, ideal reaction, right?
Yeah.
Like
he gets her so close that she screams his name, and it like kind of shocks him, and he stops and he looks at her, and he tells her to say it again as she comes, and he goes down on her again, and then he puts 2 fingers inside of her, and she moans his name again and again as she comes, and it's like very primal how he's feeling, I'm gonna say. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like I did that. I made her feel this way.
So he's kneeling on the floor, she's on the edge of the bed, and she pushes him back onto the floor, and so like he's lying down and she's on top of him, and she works at his pants because, you know, he still has his pants on, and he's strained against them because he's so big,
of course.
And she takes him in her hand and then licks him, and she asks if she should make him beg. I don't know why I said bag. And she kind of teases him a bit, but he says, I would beg. For you, I would. You have fucking destroyed me, Oreya. Do you know that? And I'm like, ugh. I love it so much.
I love it so much. But, like, I also love that, like, it almost, not that it feels like it came out of nowhere, but, like, they have literally, like, I just really appreciate that they've gone from, like, mistrustworthy to like friends to close, and then they're just like culminating it with this like physical relationship, and that he already feels this way about her. Like, I like that it wasn't like, let's have a bunch of sex and then realize like further into a sexual relationship that he loves her. Like, he already loves her. Yeah. And I really like that.
I do too. And like they obviously spent a lot of time together. It doesn't feel super unrealistic or anything. Like I love it. I love the way it played out. Big fan.
Yeah.
So Oreya thinks in her head that she would do the same. She would cut herself open for him, but she can't acknowledge what that really means to her. So like she loves him, but she can't say that right now because like, one of them's gonna die tonight. Like, it's not that, like, you know. But she can see that he loves her too. Like, they're both in love with each other, but they can't acknowledge it because it doesn't make sense.
They have no future.
Yeah. She then slowly lowers herself on him because he's so much bigger than she's used to. And I'm like, used to?
Used to. You've had one penis.
Yeah. So I'm like, I guess dildos exist in this world? I don't know. He asks if she's all right, and she tells him that he's holding back and not to. And so he starts holding her waist, and like, they go harder. He leans up. Yeah. He leans up to be able to kiss her, and she is incoherent. Like, she's just begging for whatever. Yeah. She doesn't even know what she's saying. But she bites his neck and licks his blood. You're like, okay, this is not what I expected.
Yeah.
And then he kisses her, and she thinks vaguely of the last time that she had sex, but she's like too far gone and enjoying this too much to even care about it. She tells him to say her name as he comes, and he does. And she comes as he's like twitching inside of her. She checks her neck because like he had been kissing her neck and stuff, but he didn't draw any blood from her. She's the one who drew blood, and he says he's not surprised that it was her. She kind of jokes that she can see the appeal, but then she thinks to herself that she does see the appeal, and she like he tastes just like he tastes just like he smells, and like she liked it. You're like, this is something. Then she asks when he'll be like good to go again, and she can already feel him hardening. And like, I guess they can eat and stuff too, but like, I'm always wonder vampires and their blood and like how they can actually get hard. Like, it's like, you know, it's a thing. Like, I guess when he was drinking her blood, he couldn't get hard until he had more blood in his body because he was dying. You're like, you know, the logistics, whatever. It's not anyway. So he's already getting harder. I guess he can will his blood where he wants. You know.
But like in this world too, though, like vampires can breed and have babies. Yeah. So like, it's not even just blood circulation that you got to think about. Like, he is still actively producing sperm. And
babies can live inside of a, one would assume, dead host.
A vampire mother.
Yeah. But yes.
Yeah. But like, so this is why I don't think they are actually undead.
Yeah, they're not traditional vampires.
Like, they're not traditional vampires. To me, they're just like a species of supernatural being.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So he's already getting hard, and he says they only have one night, and he's not wasting it because he has a list,
which we've heard about.
Yes. And then the next chapter starts with they barely make it halfway through, and I'm like, wait, does she know the list? Why can't I know the list? That's what I want. I want the list. If she can know the list, I know the list. Mm-hmm. But they barely make it halfway through, and they both want so much more. They do sleep for a bit, and Oreya kind of like wakes up and watches Raihn sleep, and he wakes up after that and says he hopes it's not morning because he's not ready to die yet. And she can't bear the thought of him dying, which is bad. They got too close to each other, she thinks, and like Raihn is embedded in her heart now. So,
but like, okay, I'm all for like, yes, it's your last night together, you want to make it count, but like also you want to perform your best at the trial so that you don't both die. So wouldn't you want to get more sleep?
I guess you can sleep when you're dead.
Like, yeah, but think of like, which is imminent because they are going to be tired.
I guess it is what it is. Don't know. Doesn't really make any sense. So she asks him about the people relying on him, and he tells her he's like, really? Are we going to do this? And she's like, yeah, I want to hear everything. But he tells her he was a guard and they were making a journey on a small ship and they got caught in a storm and stranded, and he dragged himself to shore. But he was mostly dead when a powerful man found him and asked if he wanted to live. And he said yes. He was only 32 and he had a wife and a child coming. So he had a lot to live for.
I like that we learn how old he is. Like, how old, like, and I like that he's 32. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, 32 is a good age.
I feel like she's a bit young.
And, like, but not as young, like,
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
It usually is when the men are 300 or 500 years old and the women are like 18.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's like, so he's stopped aging at 32. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good age to stop aging at.
I agree. So yeah, this powerful man turned him and wouldn't let him leave. And he says at first it was because he was so sick. Like, it literally took him months to get over the turning. Because like we heard, 2 out of 3 people died when they turn. But after that, he says, like, the man had tastes. And he was such an old vampire that, like, it was hard for him to, I guess, I don't, this is the wrong way to say it, but, like, get off on anything anymore. So, like, now he would just take vampires or make them and keep them for his entertainment. So it's not great. Basically, Raihn was in a situation where he didn't have any choices, and he was used however this powerful man wanted to use him. Oreya, listening to this, thinks of how sorry she is for him, but she doesn't say that. She just tells him she's fucking furious for him. Raihn tells her, like, that vampire is dead now, but Raihn hated himself for those 70 years that he was with him. And because he hated vampires because of him. He talks about then the other vampires that lived with him. And she knows this is where Nezanin, I think I wrote it right then, comes in. And he loved her. And that is what saved him. Because nothing before her mattered. Like, being in this shitty place and everything being awful. Before he fell in love with her, like, he had kind of given up. But she was the first vampire he ever met that was kind. And it meant so much to him. He tells her that, like, his sire, I guess, he doesn't call him that, but his sire's world was collapsing around him. And he begged Nezanin to go with him. But she refused, and she ended up dying. But he got out. And obviously he feels a lot of guilt about that. When he got out, he went back to see his wife and child, but 70 years had passed, and it did not go well. Like, obviously, it's not going to go well.
Yeah, do you know what? I would love to have heard more about that. Like, I wonder if, like, I feel like, obviously, his wife would be dead. Like, that, I think, is given. But, like, I wonder if he found his child, and, like, I wonder if his child had kids. Like, and I wonder if he was, like, he said it didn't go well, but I wonder in what context. Yeah. Like, did he find them all, like, dead, and that's what didn't go well? Or did he find his child, and his child refused to see him? Like, I wonder, I really want that interaction.
Yeah, me too. I kind of, like, it's easy enough to just be like, he went back, and his wife was dead, and that was devastating enough. Because, like, 70 years passed, not quickly for him, but, like, trauma-induced quickness, I'll say. So, yeah. Interesting. Oreya kind of thinks, like, she has human blood and a vampire heart. And at that point, like, he had vampire blood and a human heart. And, like, how they're different, but similar. And how they're both kind of different than humans and vampires. Like, she's really, they've got a connection, but it's in a different way.
They're like opposite ends. They're like they're exact opposites. Yeah.
He tells her that after he was free, he traveled everywhere. He went to all the different houses, even the like Bloodborns, which is like unheard of. And he also went to the human lands, which is also odd for a vampire. But he kind of knew he was running, so he came back, and that's when he met Misha. And he didn't think it was his responsibility to help, like, I think he even says the Raihn people, but Misha forced his hand by entering, which we kind of talked about. He also says he worries for Misha in a world like this because, like, it isn't as simple as she sees it. And, like, Oreya understands what he means. Like, Misha is obviously, she's kind of, I don't know the word for it, but, like, she's very optimistic and she thinks, like, you can change the world and all of this stuff. But, like, they understand that there's more to it. Oreya thinks of the people that Raihn has to save. And she thinks, like, all of the people that she wanted to win this for to find are dead because Salinea is gone. So she thinks, like, he deserves this more than she does. He deserves to win. And her reasons don't even exist.
Well, and, like, I will say that nothing against her. She's a badass. But, like, realistically, he has saved her ass. Now, she has saved his ass, too. And she has come up with a lot of solutions to problems. But, like, I just feel like she has, I guess they've survived thanks to each other. But, like, even as close to, like, the second trial, she was taking that kid. If Raihn had not helped her out while she had that liability, then she would not have made it through. And, like, she helped him for I don't know. I feel like he does deserve to win. Yeah. But so does she. I don't know. I'm conflicted.
Yeah, like, when you think back on it, you're like, she's ended so many trials almost dead, and he's the reason she's gotten through. Yes. But then when you, like, think back to the shit that she's done for him, you're like, oh, she's done so much too, which I love that she has done.
He's helped her through the in-betweens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that he is the reason she got through the trials, but he is the reason she survived to the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there's a case for both of them to win, and, you know. Yeah. But he tells her that he also found somebody who was defiant where he didn't think it existed anymore. And he's talking about her killing vampires in the human district. Like, he wouldn't have expected that from her because he just saw her as Vincent's pet and doing what Vincent wanted. But it also, like, kind of makes you think that he realized in that moment that how naive she was, which is kind of, like, sad.
And I wonder if he appreciated her for that naivety, or if he, like, he saw her doing that knowing that they're taking humans and just feeding off of them at the feast. So, like, I wonder if he saw that and was like, what is this girl doing and why? Or if he saw that and was like, oh, she's trying her best even though, like, she's saving this human today who's probably going to be taken to the castle and eaten tomorrow.
Yeah. I feel like it made him understand her more because before this point, he didn't realize that she didn't know things. He thought that she was, like, a willing accomplice to... So it I don't know, obviously conflicting things, but, like, I think it made him think she was probably a bit stupid, but it also made him understand her. And it made him hate Vincent more. Dualities. People have them. She tells him then that she doesn't know why she's doing any of this anymore, and she looks at her weapons and she wonders how much blood it would take for Nyaxia to accept her withdrawal. Because obviously, like, Raihn is the one who needs to win because he has so many people to help. He tells her she is stronger than Vincent made her, and she has to keep going, and if she stops fighting, it would break his heart. And they both swear to each other that they will fight till the end. The sun is going down, and she asks if he wants one last look, but he says no and kisses her. Even though he knows what's going to happen, he decides he'd rather kiss her than see the sun one last time, and I just love it. I love it so much, because he, like, watched it every day, and this is his last day, and he knows what's going to happen. Well, not the whole thing, but he has plans. You can tell he has plans in the next part.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they then have to obviously follow the smoke, and Angelica and Ibrahim are already there, and Angelica's eyes are red, and Oreya kind of wonders if it's from the curse or if it's from the grief of losing Ivan, and either is not great. Ibrahim goes through the arch into the Colosseum first, and his wings are still super fucked. And then Angelica goes through, and before Oreya and Raihn go through, Oreya grabs Rain's hand, and she squeezes it, and they slow down for a second, and she kind of thinks of, like, what their life could be. And then she has to, like, basically just shatter all of the dreams she has, because she knows one of them is going to die. And she goes through the arch. Sad.
What? Okay, so, Oreya walks into the arena and immediately has to dodge, like, a spurt of fire.
Of course.
And she looks and sees that the arena is split into 4 quadrants, like, one for each of them. So, I guess, like, I don't know if they each walk through, like, I'm wondering if, like, the arena, like, rotates so that, or if they just are magicked into one of the 4 quadrants.
I just assume it's magic.
Yeah. So she looks, and it looks like there are actually 3 people in her quadrant with her. And they are circling her, and they are attacking, but she says they have empty black eyes.
This is very Hunger Games.
Yes! That's what I said.
Yeah.
Remember I told you when I read this book, I was like, it is From Blood and Ash meets ACOTAR meets the Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I was like, I wonder if they're human or vampires, but they have empty black eyes, so, like, it's unknown. Yeah. And she says that 2 of them have crowns on their heads, and she realizes that they are meant to be parodies of the other gods that Nyaxia fought after her husband's death. So, again, this is, like, her last big moment of Nyaxia's life. So, a female keeps shooting arrows at her, and she realizes that that's Ix, the goddess of fertility and sex. And a male keeps throwing fire at her, and she realizes that that's Atraxis, that we've heard of before. And the third guy has no crown, but makes a sound that splits her brain open. And she realizes that that's Kashmar, the god of art, seduction, beauty, and music. So he's the god of a lot of shit. And so she realizes, like, I've got to destroy these 3 people, but she's like, who should I go after first?
Yeah, 3 against 1 are not great odds.
And no. And there is an order, right? Like, because right now she's dodging fireballs, dodging arrows, and then every once in a while Kashmar lets out this, like, thing that makes her, like, that incapacitates her. So she's like, I should probably go for him first. And she runs for him, and when she gets close, she notices that he stinks. And she recognizes him when she gets up close, and sees that it's actually the guy that Raihn killed the first night. What was his name? Klin. The guy that was pissed about his brother. It's him. So she's like, shit, these are actually the corpses of former competitors, and they've resurrected them for the final trial, which is insane. And sort of why you said that it's just like the Hunger Games, because that's the last, in the Hunger Games, that's the last moment. They've got the mutts with the, like, eyes of dead contestants too. So she gets close to him and stabs him in the chest, but he doesn't die. And she's like, of course he doesn't. He's a reanimated corpse. He's already dead. So, like, stabbing him in the heart's not gonna do it. And she sees, like, a bulge in his throat, and she's like, that must be the magic. Like, she's like, they must have some sort of magic item on them that allows them to perform the magic that's associated with the god they're parodying. So because this guy has, like, it lets out this ear-splitting thing that, like, damages her brain, he must have some sort of magic item in his throat to allow him access to that kind of magic. Yeah. And she also was like, there's no way that Nyaxia could perform this magic. So it must be a magic item that actually came from Kashmar himself.
Yeah, because vampires can't perform, and obviously the rift between them all, like...
Yeah. So there's no way that Nyaxia could perform any of this magic. So she must have gotten a hold of some sort of magic item and shoved it in these reanimated corpses to allow them to perform the magic. So she just hacks away at his throat and, like, until his head comes off.
Fair.
And, yeah. And he's, like, gone. Which is fine. So, like, anticlimactic death.
Yeah.
So then she throws, I wrote down she throws the body at Ix, which seems, like, cumbersome. I wonder if she throws the head at her.
I don't really remember.
I don't know why I wrote body. But she throws, like, Kashmar at the girl portraying Ix so that she can't shoot her arrow at her, and runs at her next and cuts her hands off.
Smart.
Because her hands were what was, like, shooting the arrows. And then she grabs the bow and enchants one of the arrows with her Nightfire and shoots it right at Atraxis's chest, which is the source of his power, and takes him down. So, like, she, like, got rid of them very quickly.
Yeah. She's doing well.
And, yeah, and then a door opens for her in her little dome. And she goes into the next section and she sees Vincent in the crowd. And she's sort of surprised because he looks concerned for her. Because I guess they didn't leave on good terms. They didn't part ways on good terms. They had a fight. So she's like, oh, I'm surprised he's here, for one. And I'm also surprised that he cares about me at all. And I'm like, just because you have a fight with someone doesn't mean that they stop loving silly. You. Like, yeah. And, like, at this moment, she feels conflicted about her feelings for him. Because she sort of hates Vincent the King. But how can she hate Vincent, her father, when he looks at her with such love and care? And, like, I feel like that is something that so many people struggle with. Like, people that love terrible people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
abusive relationships, or, like, even abusive parental relationships. Obviously don't have as much experience with that one. But, like,
no.
It is obviously something that people do have to deal with all the time.
Yeah. And, like, even, you know, people who go visit, like, loved ones in jail, like, you can hate that they're...
what they did.
That they've... what they've done, but how can you hate who they are?
Yeah.
So it is, like, a very common theme, we'll say. So, like, her thinking through all of this sort of distracts her, and she almost gets shot with an arrow, and she turns to see that it's Ibrahim.
I love him.
And he has made it through, and he has come through his quadrant, and he was shooting at her.
Which is smart. Like, but I guess he took a bow from one of the people. She should have done that. Yeah.
Or maybe, like, the bow is his weapon. Like, she's got her
maybe
swords. Maybe maybe a bow and arrow is his. So... But, like, so he is shooting at her, but his leg is so mangled that I guess, like, he can barely stand up, and, like, shooting at her, he's not, like, he can't aim very well. He's also missing an eye.
Yeah. That's new.
So, like, his leg is mangled, he's missing an eye, his wings are destroyed, and she can tell that he has fought so hard. And the crowd is, like, laughing at him. I hate it. And I hate it, too. And, like, his hands are so slicked with blood that he can't even notch another arrow. And he looks at Oreya's face and asks, like, do you pity me? Like, he's getting mad. And he can hear them everyone laughing at him. And Oreya can tell that, like, he's thinking about just giving up.
Yeah.
But Oreya's like, fuck all these people. Give me a fair fight and I'll give you a fair death. And he's like, okay. And, like, the only thing is it was quick. Because he was so beat up that it wasn't really fair. And she's driving the dagger into his chest, and he tells her he was glad that it had been her.
Yeah, which is, like, so sad, but dies. Like, I love it. I love them.
Yeah. I know. I have mixed feelings about him, because he is he was the underdog, like, just like she was. And I sort of feel like maybe if she hadn't paired up with Raihn, like, maybe it would have been a good idea to pair up with him. But he also was very, like, I think he was very conniving. Like, he was, like, he had partners and allies, and he was just, like, killing them every chance he got. He just seemed very, like, bloodthirsty to win.
Yeah, he did, like, the one where half of them die, he, like, killed his partner but only one of them would have got through, so, like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, like, easily this book could have been about him as a character if it wasn't about her, because, like, they do have a very similar story, which I guess is why I kind of appreciate him as a character more than I thought I would.
Yeah. So, I guess after she's done that, Raihn enters the dome next. And she's just, like, relieved he's alive. And I don't think they're thinking about killing each other. She's about to, like, go to him to be like, you're alive, I love you. But before they can make it to each other, Angelica comes in from her dome. And her and Oreya stare at each other for, like, a split second before they attack each other. And she is, like, relentlessly going for Oreya and, like, not even sparing a glance for Raihn. Even when he's, like, opening himself up and, like, trying to goad her into attacking him. But, like, I don't understand why he doesn't just, like, go and attack her. Like, why is he staying separate? Like, get in there!
I know. I don't really get it.
And, like, she keeps going and for Oreya and manages to swipe at her shoulder. So again, like, cutting her, allowing her blood to flow, and allowing Angelica to use her blood magic on her to keep her still. And she deflects and, like, pushes back on Raihn, but, like, not enough to stop targeting Oreya. And she's about to, like, swing a blow to kill Oreya. And Oreya looks at Raihn, and she sees him slightly nod at somebody in the stands, but we don't know who. And then someone in the stands gets Angelica's attention, and that has her blood magic slip and gives Oreya the opening she needs to plunge the dagger in her heart and thrust her nightfire at her. And Oreya, like, I think Angelica says something like, good luck or something as she's dying, which Oreya is like, huh, interesting.
Yeah. Not what I expected to hear.
Yeah. So she stands and she looks at Raihn then, and, like, they sort of both know that they have to fight, which I don't understand. Like, why can't they Hunger Games it?
Yeah, like, if they just stopped,
and just,
what
like,
would happen?
sit. Yeah, just, like, sit on the ground and be like, we're not gonna kill each other. Like,
yeah.
You know? So, but they do fight, and she says it sort of sucks because, like, they've been training together this whole time, so they sort of know each other's moves. Yeah. And they meet swords, like, their swords clash and they get close, and she's like, I know you're holding back. And he's like, yeah, you are too. But I guess she's like, well, you should bring it because you're the one who you sort of initiated the fight. And he does, so he has his Asteris come out, and then she responds with her Nightfire. And, like, they are genuinely fighting and hurting each other. Like, her Nightfire is actually burning him, and he is actually, like flicking her with his sword and, like, creating injuries. And she pushes back at all he gives her until, like, she manages to overcome him, and he is on the ground. And she's holding her sword to his chest. she's making no move to, like, actually do a killing blow. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, she won the fight, so she won.
Yeah, me too.
She wins. Like, he doesn't have to die.
Yeah.
And then she sort of realizes that he goaded her into this fight. Like, he came at her hard so that she would respond harder and win, which I feel like I don't understand this logic, but
yeah,
okay.
They both, yeah. Sure.
Like, yeah. And so, and I guess he wanted her to win so that she could kill him because he would not kill her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, you could also not kill him.
Yeah. But I don't think she really, not that she doesn't kill him, but I don't think she's the one that.
No. And I agree with you, but, like, I also, like, she could put down her sword at this moment. Now that she has won the fight, put the sword down.
Yeah. I don't think that they would have survived it, though. Maybe they'd both be killed for not participating.
Maybe.
Probably what they should have done in the Hunger Games. Would have saved him a lot of trouble. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're not wrong. So, like, Raihn just tells her to end it. And she can't. And she, like, refuses to look at him, which is a big thing because Vincent has, like, he's over and over and over again, like, repeated to her that you need to look them in the eye. But she can't. She refuses to look at him because she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to kill him. But she actually feels the knife slide through his chest, and she thinks maybe he actually pulled it into his own heart. So, like, she holds the knife, but she thinks he actually killed himself on her sword. Yeah. And then she looks at him, and she feels her heart break because she looks at him and sees that he's dead. He is dead!
I know. I was like, what? What do you mean?
Like, what was this whole book for?
What was the point? Why did I read this? I was like, Kristen wouldn't read this.
So, like, she obviously falls over his body and cries. She's heartbroken, and she can't believe she killed him. And, like, she's declared the winner, but she doesn't hear any of it. She just continues to kneel by his body, trying to wake him up. And she, like, literally stays there until the minister introduces the Dark Mother Nyaxia. So, like, Nyaxia actually, like, descends and, like, enters the arena. And, like, she could feel the goddess's power. And I think before this whole thing happened, she was a bit skeptical about gods and goddesses. Like we all are, right? Like, well, I say like we all are. Some people aren't.
No, but like, we were skeptical in this book that they were actually real, too. Yeah,
like, is it actually, like, are they actually gods and goddesses, or is it the church that has, like, invented this whole thing? And maybe she was real at one point, but, like, is she actually actively involved, or is it the church that's organizing all this stuff?
Especially, like, in the Misha thing, where they were like, it's not accepted by Nyaxia that she pulls out, or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, too, in From Blood and Ash, remember, like, there are gods and goddesses there, too, but they're all sleeping.
Yeah.
So, it's like, they're real, but they're not real at the same time. Yeah. So was it sort of like that sort of thing? But turns out it's not. Like, she is actively involved.
Which is interesting.
So, yeah. So she can feel Nyaxia's power, but she can't look at her until she comes over and, like, holds her face in her hands. And, like, there's, like, a whole lot of description about how, like, I didn't put it in, but, like, how she looks at Nyaxia and she's, like, overcome with, like, love and, like, joy and power, and, like, would do anything for her, and, like, I guess she is just, like, basking in the presence of a goddess. And she tells Vincent that Oreya has his eyes.
Interesting.
Yes. So, which I don't get, unless, like, How can you have someone's eyes unless they are actually your child?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, so she asks Oreya what she wants as a gift. And she sees in her heart that she grieves for Raihn. And she, like, we sort of get a little, like, Nyaxia, sees that she's grieving for Raihn, but also says, like, you can choose, like, says that, like, love is, she's trying to tell her that, like, love is a weakness.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, if you want power, you have to let go of love. And, like, she's trying to, like, I don't know what she's trying to do, but she's trying to teach her a lesson here and sort of trying to be like, you know, he died, like, yeah, you love him, but, like, look, now you have the option to gain so much power, like, you just have to ask for it, and blah, blah, blah. And Oreya thinks about how both Nyaxia and Vincent had turned their love and grief, I don't understand how Vincent turned love and grief, into power.
Well, I guess he killed his entire family, if you're calling that turning
guess,
your, you know.
But she is still human. So she did the first thing she could think of. And she told Nyaxia that she wishes that Raihn had won the Kajari instead. And this makes Nyaxia laugh. And Vincent is like, ah! Like, shocked.
Of course.
And so Nyaxia uses her power, and Raihn wakes up. And he can't really believe what Oreya has done. He's like, what did you do?
Of course.
But Nyaxia's like, okay, you're the winner now. What would you like? And this is where we sort of get our plot twist of the book. Like, our sort of shocking moment. So, his wish, he says, 200 years ago, Vincent wished to remove the power from the Raihn line. He's like, well, I would like it to be restored, and restored in me, the turned heir of the Raihn king. So,
what?
Raihn gets his power back, and his wings are tipped with red, and then he has an air mark running down his back, down, like, this scar he had in the center. And, like, everyone's like, oh, shit. So, like, 200 years ago, it turns out that, like, that was Vincent's wish, right? To remove the power from the Raihn line so that he could go and kill them all. So the Raihn king had lost his power, and that's how Vincent, like...
Killed him?
Beat him. Yeah. And took the throne. So, I guess Raihn asked for it back, and now he's got all the power the Raihn king had. And I guess this is what we were talking about, his wings. So, like, we said that heirs always have mark, right? They've got, their wings are red, have red on them, and then they have the air mark. Raihn has had red on his wings this entire time, but nobody has noticed. Yeah. But Oreya has noticed, but did not connect the dots.
Yeah, and when he was being tortured, he wouldn't bring his wings out. So you're like, what was he hiding?
Yeah. Anyway, so Raihn, like, appears before Vincent's box, and he is so full of power, it's, like, staggering. And he speaks to Vincent, like, as if he remembers him, and says that 200 years ago, he massacred every Raihn man, woman, and child within the walls of this city. Which is like, ooh, that's pretty bad. He literally killed everyone in the city. How are there people in the city now? Like, did he just, like, import his own?
Well, I guess, like, when the Raihn are in power, Raihn are in the city, and when the Hayaj are in power, they're in the city, so he just, like, brought in the Hayaj people, I assume.
I guess. And he then says that he killed anyone with a sliver of a chance of becoming the Raihn heir. However, he missed one, aka Raihn. And Oreya is sort of realizing her mistake here.
Yeah.
And she's running for her father to try and save him. But all of a sudden, hands are grabbing at her, and she watches as Raihn kills her father. And she's like, it's all her fault. And she is finally, like, free of all these people grabbing her, and she races to his body. And before he dies, he tells her that he has made many mistakes, but never her. And he loves her. And then he dies.
Yeah.
And she loses her shit.
Yeah.
And she just engulfs herself in her night fire flames until Raihn actually grabs her, and he's trying to soothe her like he didn't just kill her father.
Yeah.
And he's like,
completely betray her.
Come back to me. You're safe. And it's like, dude, like, maybe give her some space. Like, you just, like, do you, like, it almost seems like he doesn't, it's, I don't know, man. It's like he doesn't think that she'll feel betrayed at this moment.
Yeah. He kind of orchestrated it so that this wouldn't have to happen, and now it's happening, and he's like, fuck. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he expects. Obviously, she's gonna be pissed.
Yeah. I just don't understand why he thinks that she wouldn't be pissed at him.
Yeah. But alas.
Yeah. Anyway. So she feels this, like, burning all over, and she feels it at her throat, and, like, she hates him. But she does calm down. And he, like, just looks at her, and then when he looks at her throat, his eyes widen. And all of a sudden, Karis, one of the people at the house taking care of Misha, is there. And he just says, fuck. She's an heir. So that burning was actually Vincent's power passing to her, which is like, yikes.
How can that happen?
Yeah, so I think there's like a rush of Rishon soldiers that have come in, and they want to just kill her immediately. But Raihn, like, puts on this mask of leadership and says, like, instead of killing her, it'll be better if he makes her his wife. And that way he can make it hurt when he fucks her the way it hurt when Vincent raped the Rishon queen 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is like, yikes.
It's not good. None of it's good.
And
don't like anything.
No, and that is, no, I just, it's just a bit, ugh.
Yeah.
And he manages to convince all of them.
This is a good idea.
Yeah. And he tells them to go reclaim their kingdom, and he'll deal with Oreya. Once everyone leaves, he tells her...
Sorry, to be fair, though, it is better, because, like, Nyaxia makes sure there is always an heir. It is better for them if the heir is a weak human instead of passing to somebody else. So why would you just kill her and then not know who the heir is? Like, keep her, lock her in the dungeons forever. Like, even if he was, like, super evil, like, that would be the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they don't like doing that. They just want to kill everybody.
But it doesn't make any sense. Because then somebody like Raihn becomes the heir, and nobody thinks that he could be the heir because he was turned. So, like, yeah. Anyway, it's my 2 pieces.
No, I like those 2 pieces. So once everyone leaves, he tells her he is so fucking sorry. And it's like, that doesn't really make up for killing her father.
Yeah.
But her response to him is that she hates him. And then she passes out. Of course she does. So then she wakes up in her room at the castle. So she's in her original room. And she just gets up and stares at herself in the mirror. And apparently her eyes have changed to look like Vincent's. And I don't understand what that means.
It makes me wonder if, like, what the goddess saw was, like, the future. Like, she said that their eyes looked the same. Or if Vincent had the same eyes as her before he won, and then he became heir, and his eyes changed because he became an heir, and she had the same eyes he used to have. and her eyes have changed because
maybe.
she became heir, and now her eyes look different. And like Vincent's looked like to her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Conspiracies.
Yes, all the conspiracies. So she stares at her air mark. So it's at the base of her throat, like on her like chest. And it's all the phases of the moon layered on top of each other. I know, so cool.
I want it.
I wonder if there's any like any fan art.
Yeah, I haven't
looked
for any because I don't want to spoil the next book. But big fan.
Right. So then there are like lines unfurling like rose petals extending up to her shoulders, and she says it sort of reminds her of high edge wings.
Interesting.
Yes. So Raihn comes in and she has no weapons, but she attacks him anyway.
Of course.
And he manages to subdue her, and he tells her that he only said those things earlier to save her life, and he has to explain some things. And she hates his guts and wants to claw his eyes out, but she wants answers more. So she's like, I'll try and listen and behave.
Yeah.
And he tells her then that, like, he never lied to her at one point. Like, omission. Like, he lied through omission.
Yeah.
Which is a different than flat out lying, I guess. Yeah. Is it better or worse? I don't know, but it's different. So he says that the person that actually turned him years and years ago was King Neculi Viserys. And that Raihn had actually betrayed him 200 years ago. And apparently he had corresponded with Vincent and gotten him everything he would need to destroy the Raihn kingdom because I guess there was rumors that a high edge guy was going to come in and he was sort of like a shoo-in to win. Mm-hmm. So, to win the Kajari, so Raihn had actually like given him all this information to help Vincent, like after he won, to sort of overpower the Raihn and their soldiers so that he could take over the kingdom. Mm-hmm. But Raihn asked Vincent to spare the innocents. He said, do what you must, but just spare the people that are innocently living here.
Yeah. Like,
obviously,
that chick whose name I cannot say, that he loved.
Oh, Nessun.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but obviously we've already found out that once Vincent became king, he literally killed every single Raihn man, woman, and child living in the city. So he did not spare the innocents.
No, the exact opposite, really.
He was a jackass.
Yeah.
Yes. But Vincent had never known who had given him that information. He remained anonymous. So he didn't realize that's who it was. And he actually escaped before the king could figure out that he betrayed them, and was far away when he heard about what Vincent did. And he also heard that Nessanyan, or Nessun, I don't know, Nessanyan?
Something.
Whatever. Was one of the last people to die. So he assumes that she was actually like raped a shit ton. Yeah. And he was very hurt because he did love her and she was kind. And, you know, it
sad.
It wasn't fair. And it wasn't fair.
It is his fault. Like, he did say spare them, but if he didn't, like, I still think that Vincent would have figured it out on his own, but he did help Vincent to this end, which was killing the person he loves. So, like, there is a lot of guilt there.
Yeah. Yes. And he also got the air mark, like, he was well outside of town when King Neculi was killed. So he got the air mark and he hated it and he tried to get rid of it because he didn't want to be the heir. He didn't want to be responsible for all these Raihn lives. But obviously he couldn't get rid of an air mark.
Yeah.
And he admits that the Kajari was the same thing for him as it was for Vincent, a path to the crown.
And he also admits that he did originally choose her as an ally because of who she was to Vincent. And he thought that it would be easy to kill her after the Half Moon trial. And, like, at least he's being honest about it. And, like, she can tell that he is being truthful. And she asked why there are House of Blood within the castle. I don't know how she knows that.
They also stood up when she was, like, when he became heir. Like, they were part of the, like, ones helping control the crowd and shit.
Okay. And he tells her that he made a deal with Septimus, one of the princes, for manpower, since Vincent had actually gotten rid of so many Rishan.
Yeah.
So they need the numbers. And Septimus actually approached him, like, ages ago, offering this deal. And he kept saying no and no over and over again because he didn't trust Septimus.
Fair.
However, the final trial, when Angelica was, like, mercilessly attacking Oreya, and Raihn gave that nod, that was actually to Septimus. He agreed to the deal to save her. And then he sacrificed himself for her so that he wouldn't have to honor Septimus's deal. But then she brought him back, so now he does have to honor the deal.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Yeah, this is just... They're all so dumb.
Yeah, and Oreya thinks it was dumb, too.
100%.
She's like, this plan was stupid. Yeah. And he asked her, like, if she knew about the air mark. And she's like, no, because I'm just human. Yeah. And she's like, aren't I? Like, there's no way I can be more than that. And she's like, you've smelled me, you've tasted me, like, wouldn't you know if I was more than just a human? And he actually says, like, you do taste different, but he says he thought it was just because of how he felt about her.
Because he loved her.
Yeah. Which is so cute.
Disasters.
And they start to wonder, actually, why Vincent was in Séléné, in that specific part of town, and why he lands in front of her specific house, and, like, maybe she's his biological daughter and, like, actually half vampire. Which opens up a huge, like, so many questions. Mm-hmm. So, like, I wonder if, like, does this make her somewhat, like, a quicker healer? Like,
is this why she can, like, what we talked about it a few weeks ago, why she can, like, get out of magic easier because of this? Like, yeah.
And, like, you know, like, does that mean that she has a longer lifespan? Like, what's her lifespan going to be? Like, is this going to impact, like, I wonder if this, like, impacts how, like, maybe she can withstand feeding more. I don't know. Like, it just brings up so many questions. Yeah. And I feel like it brings up questions for her, too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And, like, I do wonder, like, does this mean she can be turned?
With it less, with less risk, because she's already
with any risk.
Yeah.
Like, does she even need to be turned? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if the need to be turned is still a thing. Like, does it matter anymore?
Yeah. Like, if she's already immortal, like, she wouldn't... Yeah. I getcha.
Yeah. Anyway, so she thinks back to his last minutes, and apparently, like, he said something, like, he meant to tell her, and she was like, maybe that's what he was talking about. Like, that's what he meant to tell me.
Because he obviously knows, like, she's his only heir. She is going to get this mark as soon as he dies, so.
Yeah. And Raihn, she thinks, like, Raihn asked her once why Vincent was so afraid of her. And she thinks that it's because there is nothing more terrifying to a ruler than their heir. Because, like we've said before, like, Vincent went and killed his parents, killed his brothers and sisters, like, killed everybody in his family so that he was the only one left, so that he could become heir. And, like, Ibrahim's parents, they literally crippled him so that he would not be a threat to them. And it's just one of those things of like, Vincent's motivation for her to become his Oreya is that primarily so that she could not make a move against him because she was his official heir. Yeah. So Raihn vows that like they will figure everything out about her heritage and everything after the wedding. LOL.
Yeah. It's such a trope to like it's literally marriage. Yeah, it's literally from Blood and Ash. Like it's exactly the same.
Yeah. But I low-key love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they get married and then they're gonna fall in love again. Like they're in love, they fight, hate each other, enemies again, then they get married, and then, you know, they're gonna fall in love again.
Yeah. But she tells him that she's not going to marry him. And he's like, oh, you are, because it's the only way to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And he tells her that he needs to keep her safe. And that she needs to keep herself safe so that they can remake this world to be a better place.
Yeah.
So he fully wants her, like, to embrace this role. And he is, like, I'm going to say he's actually sticking his neck out a little bit to keep her safe. And he actually wants her to be an equal partner.
Yeah, I agree. But, like, does that counteract killing her father and, like, lying? I'm going to say lying to her.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I want it.
I do, too. Like, this is also Fourth Wing. Like, there's these fucking... At the end of the first book, everyone's so angry and they hate each other because they didn't lie, but they kept secrets, and like you're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to me? I just want the couple to be together. I don't want there to be 15 more fucking books where they're trying to figure it out. Stop.
Agreed. So like he says, like, you know, you need to help me make this world a better place, and she actually has a vision in her head, not like an actual vision, but like she has this vision as to how, like, she pictures him and her like banding together and
actually doing it,
like, and actually doing that and making the world better, especially for humans, and making it safer. Mm-hmm. And they have, like, what I like to call, like, a Pride and Prejudice moment.
Yes.
Where they have, like, an almost kiss where they're, like, so close and, like, breathing in each other's
so
breath.
Mad,
and, like,
so close, and you're like...
Yeah. And, like, do it! But they don't do it. And he tells her that he's going to get the priestess. And he just goes and gets someone and, like, brings her back. And, like, they just get married.
It's very, like, I really expected it to be, like... Not a big deal. I didn't expect it to be, like, the marriage to be big or anything, but I didn't think it would happen, like, you know?
Right, that, yeah. And the ceremony was cute, and she says that she can actually tell that he means every word of the vows, and, like, he is in love with her.
Yeah. And
she repeats the vows, but, like, I guess the way these vows work is, like, I give you my body, I give you my... like soul, I give you all this stuff is what the vows are, but part of it is I give you my heart, and she cannot repeat that part. She can't say it because she's just so upset with him and doesn't trust him.
And it's heartbreaking because she already gave him her heart, and this is like he betrayed it.
Yeah.
I just fucking love it. But I hate it, but I love it.
No. And when it's done, she actually just asks to be left alone. And she says she can tell that he has things to say, but she doesn't really want to hear it right now. So Fair. He just leaves her. She's like, okay. A few minutes later, Jasmine is at her window.
I love this part. I fucking love the turn in this character from what I expected it to be. I love women helping women. Fucking the best.
It's so good. And she calls her Highness and tells her, like, you know, obviously she said, like, I was loyal to your father, but I'm loyal to the High Adge.
Yeah, first and foremost, she's loyal to, like, whoever's in power. And I'm like, yes!
And she was like, that's you, girl!
Get it!
And she's like, I've got military ready outside the city, ready, like, we're awaiting your orders. What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And Oreya is, like, smart here because she's like, I don't intend for us to fight a war we can't win right now. And so she's like, right now, retreat, regroup somewhere else, and she's going to gather information until they're ready. So as long as the Raihn and the Bloodborne are working together, she doesn't think they have a chance of winning.
Fair.
So the next night, Raihn comes and says, we've got work to do. And she's actually really surprised that he's including her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like maybe she didn't think he was serious when he said, like, he wanted her to work with him.
Well, it's also, like, not even just that, but you would think that everybody else would have been like, nope, she's not doing shit. Get her out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like, he brings her to the throne room, and she says, like, it's really weird because, like, she's used to seeing all these Hayaj, and now it's all these Raihn, and they all look at her with hate. Not because she's a human, because she's the Hayaj heir. Mm-hmm. And they hate her for the power that she has. And she then talks with Septimus, and he points out that Bloodborne people have been used in Nyaxia's games, and that he's always bet on her, and he's always come out on top. So, like, I think he's trying to, like, suggest that she trusts him.
Yeah, he's also kind of being like, the Bloodborns have been fucked over, and so have humans. Like, we have more in common than you think.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't think he's wrong, per se.
Yeah. I wish that he, not to spoil anything, but, like, he plays a significant part in book 2. Mm-hmm. And I wish his story had taken a different turn than what it takes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, because right now it seems like, you know, he could be authentic.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't say much more without ruining book 2.
No.
Or not ruining it.
You can't ruin book 2 for everybody listening and me.
No.
I'll fight you.
And I'm not like, it wouldn't be ruining it for me to say something, but I'm not going to say anything. But I wish I wish his character took a different route than what it takes.
Makes sense.
Anyway, so Raihn, like, sort of takes her away from Septimus, and they chat, and, like, it's sort of the final thoughts of the book is that they have to remake a kingdom. Mm-hmm. Because, like, this is sort of the good thing is, like, I wish they would stop the infighting.
Yeah.
Because, like, they're all Nightborn. So, like, just stop fighting with each other. Mm-hmm. Like, you'd be better off. Yeah. And so, like, they're thinking to each other, like, they have to remake a kingdom to stop being prejudiced against each other. And, like, she knows that they're both scared. Mm-hmm. And, like, this is a big problem for him is that he is a turned heir. He has no connection to Nekulai's family and his... So, like, it's going to be hard for him to be accepted as the ruler.
I think you've said it before, but it goes humans, turned vampires, vampires. So, like, he is below regular vampires, and now he's supposed to be their ruler, so he's in a bad spot. She's human, and she's the heir, so she's in a bad spot. Like, it really would make sense for them to work together and kissy kiss.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so she knows that they're both scared, and she hates him, but she also loves him. Mm-hmm. And she just knows that she has to, like, bide her time. So she thinks to herself, and I actually can't remember if she says it to him, but she won't kill him, ... tonight.
Yeah, I think he
hearkening back. Yeah. And so, like, she says she won't kill him tonight, sort of, like, as a callback to, when, was it after the Half Moon trial, and he, like, sort of gives her the option to kill him, and there's sort of all this sexual tension, and she says she won't kill him tonight. So, it's sort of a callback to that.
Yeah. Which I love. Love a good callback.
And we all know that she won't kill him tonight. She's not going to kill him ever.
No. That'd be sad.
sad. Can you imagine?
No, I cannot.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This is our book.
So that's the end of our book. I really like this. So I've actually started her other series. I don't know what the series is called, but the book is called The Daughter of No Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And I like her writing.
Yeah.
Like, I think she does, like, she's done a really good job of writing these books so far. I'm excited for the third one to come out. I don't know when it's coming, but I'm excited.
Yeah. I haven't read the second one, obviously. I was really pissed when she used her wish to say that he won. I wanted her to make her wish to become his Koryatai, or make her wish for him to be alive, not for him to win. Like, any other wish. But I know, like, she was going into it. She loved him. She realized that his wish was more noble than hers from what he told her. So I get why she did it, and, like, it does make sense. But I, like, when I was reading it, I was like, no! Because I thought she was just going to use her wish to be like, make him alive, like City of Bones.
Yes.
Like, that kind of thing. I thought it was that was going to be the wish. And I was like, cool, love this. This is a great book. She's not stuck to Vincent anymore. She has him alive. Yay, yay, yay. Book is over. But that is not what happened. I'm also glad that Vincent died. When he died, when I was reading it and he died, I was like, good. Because if he was alive and made her feel like shit, I would have killed him myself.
Yeah. He needed to die because he was a terrible person and there was no way he was going to give up the crown. And, like, there was no way she was going to find out who she really was, I think, unless he died. Yeah. But yeah, like, I agree. He needed to die. I do feel bad because she's going to have a lot of unresolved feelings and she's going to have a lot of questions that only he could have answered.
100%, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, I really enjoyed the book. I was, obviously, there's another book and you need a story for it, but I really was like, why did she choose that? Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it for us this week. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to share any of your thoughts on the book, or if you have any book suggestions, you can reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread and coffee.coread on TikTok.
So next week is New Book Week. We will be reading Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Next week we'll be starting with chapters 1 to 12, so make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.